Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtata Sadashri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Golden Thai Mayapur Shashi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Natha Ki Jai Shri Giriraj, what is his name? Giriraj's name, what is it? Giridharilal Ki Jai Shri Nishingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Vichardine Nevasesha Sanyavadi Pastachari Shatani. Om Gyanathanandasya Ganjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Shvayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada. We are reading, I guess we're reading from the 7th canto, is that right? Chapter 1, is that correct? Text number 36. There is no purport. Okay, that's good. Short class. There's no purport. And 37 has a short purport, and 38 has no purport. And 39 has a purport, I think. Maybe not. Page. No, 39 doesn't, 40 doesn't, 41 doesn't, 42 doesn't, 43 does. So there's not many purports coming up. So we'll see what happens. Take it as it comes. So kindly repeat, please. Srinado Vacha Ekada Brahmanak Putra Vishnu Lokam Yadvichaya Sanandanadayo Jagmush Charanto Bhuvanatrayam Shrinaruvacha Ekada Brahmanak Putra Vishnu Lokam Yadvichaya Sanandanadayo Jagmush Charanto Bhuvanatrayam Shrinaruvacha Ekada Brahmanak Putra Vishnu Lokam Yadvichaya Sanandanadayo Jagmush Charanto Bhuvanatrayam Shrinaruvacha Ekada Brahmanak Putra Vishnu Lokam Yadvichaya Sandanandanayo Jagmush Charanto Bhuvanatrayam Shrinaruvacha Ekada Brahmanak Putra Vishnu Lokam Yadvichaya Charanto Bhuvanatrayam. Shinaruvacha. Ekada Brahmanak Putra. Vishnu Lokam Yadrichaya. Sanandanadayo Jagmush. Charanto Bhuvanatrayam. Ladies, please. Shinaruvacha. Ekada Brahmanak Putra. Vishnu Lokam Yadrichaya. Sanandanadayo Jagmush. Charanto Bhuvanatrayam. Shri Narada Uvacha. Shri Narada Muni said, Ekada, once upon a time, Brahmana, of Lord Brahma, Putraha, the sons, Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu, Lokam, the planet, Yadrichaya, by chance, Sanandana Adayaha, Sanandana and the others, Jagmuhu, went, Charantaha, traveling about, Bhuvanatrayam, the three worlds. We begin the story of the four Kumaras and their journey. I don't know if the picture before the Shastric verses came on there, the Milky Way universal picture. I don't know if this particular planet, this Vaikuntha Loka, which they are visiting, is the one within this universe. It might be. Let's read the translation. The great Saint Narada said, once upon a time, when the four sons of Lord Brahma, named Sanak, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, were wandering throughout the three worlds, they came by chance to Vishnu Loka. So they wandered all throughout the universe, presumably through the Milky Way, whatever it's called, everywhere. And it's interesting here in this verse, once upon a time. Sometimes we use this term in English when we're telling a story sometimes, once upon a time. But we can see it's there right in this very verse. Narada Muni is using this term, ekada, which here means once upon a time. So once upon a time, these four Kumaras wandered through the worlds, probably more than once upon a time. But this particular story begins with once upon a time. They were wandering throughout the three worlds. And we go on to the next verse. Although these four great sages were older than Brahma's other sons, like Marichi, they appeared like small, naked children, only 5 or 6 years old. If ever you've probably been to villages in India, you often see the children, the young boys particularly, they don't wear any clothes. They walk around, as this verse says, naked up to a certain age. This is not so common, perhaps at least not in public, maybe at the beach or somewhere, some park. But little children, there is no offense if they walk around naked. So they were walking around naked. They had a specific reason, which we may hear. Let's see. Why they're naked and why they're only 5 or 6 years old. You know, imagine, they're missing out on all the joys of adulthood. You know, isn't it? What's the greatest pleasure in human form of life? Mostly all species of life. What's the greatest joy? Quite a simple question. Pardon? Sex life. Generally speaking, it is understood that the pleasure, as they call it, from sex life is the most enjoyable pleasure in the human form and other species in the world in general, in the universe in general. Various varieties of sexual relationships are the most enjoyable or the greatest pleasure. So a child 5 or 6 years old generally cannot enjoy sex life. Is that right? Not really. At least they can't enjoy it. So why? They are missing out. They're just little boys. And this is not just for a short time. They've chosen this stage of life for their whole, I don't know how long they live. Long time, maybe the duration of the universe practically. Long, long time. Imagine being 5 years old for millions and billions of years. I don't know if you can imagine or want to, but it's a long time. So why did they choose that? Are they stupid? No, they're the wisest people in the universe. They're the oldest sons, practically, of Lord Brahma. At least maybe they're oldest. But why do they choose this childlike form? Yeah, so they wouldn't get entangled. You know how entangled we all get when we come, well, all the time in one sense, because we're not really brought up in a very spiritual atmosphere. But especially when one reaches a certain age, it's not just entanglement, but it's gross, almost like addiction to varieties of sense gratification, especially sex life, is irresistible, practically speaking. We're not going to go there in terms of detail, but everyone knows the pervasiveness of sex life, or sex desire, and how strong a push, an urge that sex desire is. So they wanted to avoid coming to that stage of the awakening of almost uncontrollable, in many cases, sex desire, becoming entangled in family affairs, the deep dark well, Andakupa, the deep dark well of family life. Of course, for persons in the material world, this doesn't sound very, what we say, very nice, nice statements. And there's most people consider maybe not family life, but they consider the interaction between two living entities, sexual interaction, as being, a primary necessity of life. And practically, to some point, it is for those who are not so self-controlled, and those who are, of course, in adulthood. In normal cases, it's practically like eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These four activities are considered to be more or less necessities of all species of life, to different degrees maybe, but to all species of life they are common. So the four Kamaras, even as a child, 5 years old, of course you could say they eat and sleep. Defense is very minimal. They don't know how to defend themselves very well. They're not even clothing themselves, so that's not there. They don't have like a nice house which they go back to, or a room which is theirs. They are renunciates. They're wandering the universe, preaching spiritual life. And now, once upon a time, they're wandering through the three worlds, and they came to Vishnu Loka. My understanding is that in each universe, there is a Vishnu Loka, a Vaikuntha planet, where the Lord Vishnu lives, and whether or not it was there or what, but they approach this Vishnu Loka planet, where Lord Vishnu resides. We'll go on to the next verse. Oh no, we haven't quite finished that verse. When Jai and Vijay, because most of you will be aware who Jai and Vijay are. Who are they? Yeah, there's different gates, different walls. You'll see this if you go to some South Indian temples. Sri Rangam, famous temple in Tamil Nadu. There are many walls around the temple. I think it's 7, but I can't remember for sure. 7 walls. It represents entry into Vaikuntha. And they have very large gates called Gopuram. And they do have guards, but not quite the same way as Vishnu Loka. They're employed usually. to stand there to make sure, there's no trouble. In some of them, to make sure that white-skinned people don't go in. Some of them. Not eligible. And different things. But anyway, here they also have guards in Vishnu Loka. It's not to make sure white-skinned people don't go in. The guards are there to make sure that no one can enter into Vaikuntha Loka or Vishnu Loka unless their consciousness is they're qualified. It's like Prabhupada writes one book, Easy Journey to Other Planets. He talks about it sometimes on television interviews. Do you believe, Swamiji, did they go to the moon? And Prabhupada will go on to explain it. In this body, you cannot go to the moon, but they think they went to the moon. Prabhupada's not just they didn't go to the moon, but even if they did in their rocket and spacesuit go to the moon, they never entered the moon. You can't, and we haven't got the body, the appropriate body to enter in. Well, it's very hard for materialistic minds to comprehend that we went there. The Indians are now trying to go again today. So it's not just about landing a rocket on what we call the moon or the surface of the moon, but entry into the moon is another thing. It's an atmosphere which is beyond our visibility, beyond our ability to perceive. And you have to have an appropriate body, just like water. The appropriate body to live in water is the fish. In the air, it's the bird. Even on this planet, to some extent, we have examples. We cannot live in the water. We don't have an appropriate body to live in the water. Or to a little extent, we can be in the water, but not long. Same in the air. We cannot really live in the air. You put ourselves up in the air, 10,000 feet, and you won't last long. Maybe how long it falls. It takes to fall from 10,000 feet, maybe a few minutes, I don't know. That's it, finished. We don't belong there. But for a bird, it's real easy. They love it. They enjoy it like anything. Same with the fish in the ocean. They belong there. So what to speak of other planets? One has to have the appropriate body. So the Kumars are mystic yogis. They're not just 5-year-old kids who don't know where they're going. They're the most knowledgeable yogis in the universe, practically. Every learned person recognizes them for what they are, not as 5 or 6-year-old boys, but as the most learned, saintly sages in the universe, practically. Reservoirs of knowledge. So they were able to, by their own power, and it's a mystic power given by Krishna, but still they had achieved this point and they were able to travel. Just it's a natural thing. Prabhupada writes that it's natural that the conditioned soul likes to travel, particularly in the human body. People are traveling a lot, isn't it? Perhaps more now than before, I don't know. Maybe traveling further anyway. Before we didn't travel much. When we were kids, to go from here to Glasgow was a day outing. It was a big event. Maybe once a year you would make that journey to Glasgow if you lived in Lesmahago. But now many people every day they're going back and forth from Lesmahago to Glasgow, correct? Maybe even to Edinburgh to work or whatever. And then they go to the airport in Glasgow or somewhere and they jump on an aeroplane and go away for the weekend to Mallorca or somewhere. Canary Islands, right? Just for the weekend. We would never even think of it. We didn't even know where the Canary Islands were. We thought they were islands where canaries lived. We didn't know where they were when we were kids. Unknown to us, you know. We look in the sky and wonder what all those things are up there, but we know when we dream about going here and there. I don't know if you used to, I used to dream about going to other planets. I really loved the idea of, just one night, going out in the garden and just taking off and flying to one of those planets up there, seeing what's going on over there. It's exciting, huh? It's a natural thing, this desire to travel, Prabhupada says, that the living entity likes this variety, this kind of like excitement, whatever. Exploring. They like to explore. Kids, they love to explore in the caves and under the rocks and everything. Boys particularly. Exploration. So they're not necessarily on exploration. They go around the universe to spread knowledge and so on. but their entry into Vaikuntha, they wanted to see Lord Vishnu. There's a purport to this. Jai and Vijay, the two gatekeepers, thinking them ordinary children, forbade them to enter. They'd already entered through maybe 6 gates or so many gates. They were not prevented. Each gate has a set of gatekeepers. Now, Jai and Vijay are not ordinary gatekeepers. They're the heads of the gatekeepers in Vaikuntha. They expand. Now, it's an interesting thing, is that it's explained that we usually hear how, later on we'll hear it, but we won't get there on this session. Maybe we will in a few days' time, so we'll leave it. Otherwise, we'll tell this a hidden story of Jai and Vijay. Purport. In this regard, Srila Madhavacharya says in his Tantra Sar, Dvasta Vichane Danikara Sattvam Statvam Uktam. It was a long verse. I'm not going to read it. The purport is that the personal associates of Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha are always liberated souls. Okay, it says it here. Even if sometimes cursed or blessed, they are always liberated and never contaminated by the material modes of nature. Before their liberation to Vaikuntha Loka, they possessed material bodies, but once they come to Vaikuntha, they no longer have them. Therefore, even if the associates of Lord Vishnu sometimes descend as if cursed, they are always liberated. What do you make of that? Nothing? Just go on to the next verse. Let's not worry about it. Yes. I don't know your name again. I've forgotten. Pardon? Gangeya. Gangeya. Prabhu. From Wales. Yeah. Wales people, very intelligent people. Welsh people. You're not Welsh, you're French. That's why you can answer this question. French people are very, very intelligent. Yes.
My understanding is that being liberated is not very well situated physically. It's a state of consciousness. Even though they came to the material world because they were with some associates of Krishna, Vishnu, they were liberated.
Good. Yeah, you could understand that, but they appear to be conditioned when they come here, is it? Well, sometimes we give the example. No, it's a big story. Okay, anyone else want to make any more comments on that? Also from France. Yes. What was your name? Gauranga Gopal. Jahibo. Oh, this is a very nice point, isn't it? Very nice point. So in one sense, they're not fallen. Either which, whenever you take those, combine or whatever, they're not fallen in a sense. Isn't it? Is that right? If you take those 2 points, they're specifically when you take the liberated situation, they're ever liberated eternally, whatever. And then you say they're taking this position as a service. Right? Later on, you'll hear more. I don't know to what extent Prabhupada explains it, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and other commentators go into kind of quite a deeper analysis of this particular incident of the apparent fall of Jai and Vijay into this material universe, and they're apparently taking on bodies which appear to be opposed to the will of the Lord from a mundane perspective. But as you said, they're playing a part. We always hear this. Krishna wanted to have a good fight, so he arranged this whole thing with 2 of his most confidential associates who came into this world so he could have a real good fight, because an ordinary conditioned soul doesn't have such power. There's so much more to the story. We're going to leave that till later, in a sense, because it might be brought up later, and it will be more appropriate to bring it up when it comes up. And if it doesn't, we'll mention it later. But the position of a Vaishnava or a devotee, an associate of the Lord, is whatever they do, they'll do anything for Krishna. We have a somewhat relative example in the Bhagavad Gita, for instance. I mean, Arjuna is also an eternal associate of the Lord. He's not a conditioned all, but he takes voluntary. Prabhupada describes, isn't it, in the purport that, Krishna standing, smiling in the midst of the armies. What's he smiling for? We might smile when somebody's in Maya or when they behave, do something stupid or get in trouble. Maybe he likes a war, maybe Krishna's looking forward to this bloodthirsty kind of war coming up here. But that's not the reason he's smiling. He's smiling because his devotee Arjuna has voluntarily accepted the position of a conditioned soul, more or less, someone in illusion. And Krishna's happy. Not that we should imitate this and say, well, we're in a Maya, an illusionist thing. His Krishna wants me to be an illusion. Therefore, I'm in the pub, I'm in the, whatever it is, in drinking liquor or something. Krishna wants me to illusion, it's part of his Leela. No, we're not Arjuna, and whatever. But in the case of Arjuna, or in the case of the pure devotees, the Lord may want them sometimes to play different roles for his particular pastimes. That's we may too. Some of you may be actors. I met someone yesterday on the street. Oh, lady was from Costa Rica. Costa Rica. Costa Rica? Was that right, Mananda? Costa Rica. And he met the son. The son was really interested. The lady from Costa Rica was really, really nice lady. And she was into acting, drama. Her daughter was in Glasgow. They came from Costa Rica. And her daughter was performing in Glasgow, some type of dramatic performance. So they came over for this, the family from different places. And when you go in a drama, what's the first thing you have to do when you're in a drama? If you're really a proper drama, not the first thing, the primary thing. It may not be the first thing, the primary thing. What's the primary thing an actor has to have?
Talent.
Excuse me?
Talent.
Talent. Okay. Talent. Good answer. That means you have a dramatic ability. Okay, good. There's something you could say deeper than that. That's fact. It's not wrong. Yes. Charisma of a kind, I suppose you could say. You've got to have a particular capacity there in order to attract others or to impress others. Yes. Oh, that's the real fact. I mean, having taken part in hundreds of dramas, is a fact. This is the most deep thing. I mean, the other things, of course, you can't be completely ineligible. You have to have some talent there, and you have to have expressive ability, no doubt. But the most important thing is the identity. Even if you have charisma and talent, if you don't identify with the part, we won't be effective. People may do what they say and do a lot, but it won't have the real effect. You've got to really identify with the part. That's the secret. That's the real hidden. It may be hidden or not hidden, but that's the secret of drama. You completely forget. I mean, you may be what you may be in ordinary life, but when you're on the stage, you've got to completely identify with that part. In fact, actors sometimes identify with their part to such an extent that they're practically speaking, like Prabhupada said when he was a child at school, he was in drama and he played the part of Advaita Acharya. They practiced for 1 year, the drama, not just, remembering lines or parts, but developing the mood. The same thing when we come to Krishna consciousness movement. You may develop or understand all the rules and regulations. You may know all the verses. You may do all the right things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's... Was that a agreeable or a disagreeable comment coming from behind there? There was a blower there. Oh, it's Padumna. So, yeah, it's the mood. We're here to develop. It's the attitude, the mood that counts. It's not just I do this, I do that, I know this, I know that. I have this position, I have that position. No, it's the mood, the consciousness within, that of a devotee. So that's another topic in itself, but it's the consciousness. We see with Prabhupada's consciousness is the secret of this mission. It's not technique, it's not even learning, it's not, being able to follow rules and regulations, all good and well, but that's not the secret. It's the mood, the spirit, the unalloyed devotion, selfless devotion. There's no selfish motivation involved. Of course, in drama, there's always some other motivation there, but one was actually in the drama, or you could even say in sport to a certain extent too. You can't start thinking about other things when you're playing sport. You have to completely identify with what you're doing. You're not going to get anywhere otherwise. But particularly in drama, if you sort of look out in the audience and you see your baby there and you start getting all, you can't do that. Or maybe your own family members on the opposite side. You're a villain, and your family member in the drama is one of the goodies. But you can't, there's no question of sentiment there. You play your part. You may have to kill them in the drama. And we have heard, when we're a little bit more involved in drama, and a devotee who was a well-experienced Aryan actor, and he was telling me some of the histories of Aryan drama. Maybe a century or so ago, more probably now, there was one Aryan, that's Orissa, that actor who was so good, so good. He got all the top parts. So in the Nrsingadev drama, which of course we're going to hear about here, he played the part of Lord Nrsingadev. Of course, it's not the most, you could say, the pastime, the part isn't that long, but it's the most key part practically in the whole drama. Lord Nrsingadev settles the whole affair up. So he played that part, and right there in front of the audience, he ripped Hiranyakashipu to shreds and killed him on the stage. The guy was dead. He got arrested. He went to trial for killing the guy on the stage, and they acquitted him. He had no awareness whatsoever of what he did. None. They were convinced. So, but they retired him from drama for a while. After some years, he came back into acting. I think they put him on probation or something, some time frame. And then he came back in. So they carefully chose his parts, Next drama was the Ramayana. So he was Dasarath in the Ramayana. He died on the stage. He left his body. That's an actor. Don't imitate it, though. But that's a real actor. It's not just an actor. It's a real part, But we're all playing that part in the material energy unknown to us, isn't it? We're all identifying with this body, which we're not. And the more you identify with it, the better you play your part. Right? You play it to the last breath. Isn't it? We're all like that. We're not this body, but we identify with this body, is it not? Yes or no? And we get really upset when somebody interferes with our part, isn't it? The way my body sees it, or mind, body, subtle, gross. We get upset. This is me. Or this is the way I think things are. So we're like that. I remember there was one I can't remember the name of the band. Some of you may know. They used to sing This Whole World's a Drama. Maya's the dramatic director. That's not the words they used, but that was what it was all about. I think there was some poem or writer who used to write about that in English history. But they wrote this song about this. They could understand it, but they couldn't get out of it. They were too attached to it. Most people, even if they theoretically know, they can't do anything about it. They're stuck, huh? You kind of know this is like a dream. You know this is crazy. You kind of got a feeling. How many people yesterday? I spoke a fair few people, not just Indian people, but Westerners. And almost everyone could feel, I mean, there's something more than just this body. There's something inside me or something spiritual or something. And they all get quite excited when they hear about it. Yeah, there's a feeling there. There's, at least in the human life, there's something more than just this lump of chemicals. I was listening to back to the cash marshal. I couldn't find it. I pressed the wrong button and it went off, and I couldn't get back there. But he was talking about a simple thing, the breakdown of this body. 99.9% is just defined as various primary chemicals, or nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, this thing, that thing. And then a little bit that's left is all kind of little bits of chemicals. That's all the body is, 100%, just varieties of chemicals, that's all. And then it went off. I pressed the wrong button. But it's quite a meditation, in a sense. This body is just a bag of chemicals. That's all it is, shaped in a certain way by the mystical powers of Maya and various agents of this material world. Incredible. No one can make a body like this. Can you do it? With all your chemical labs? Some of you are perhaps chemical engineers. Can you make a body like this? What's wrong with you? It's not possible. One that works. Of course, what to speak of the subtle one, that they can't even fathom. The intellect, the mind, etc. The material world, we're stuck in this, playing a part, identify with it, and going crazy when we don't get what we want sometimes. They will fight over it. They kill each other. Do anything. Madness. So they're drama. So they take the role. They're playing a role in the drama, and they have to fully identify with their role. But as you said, that doesn't mean that is them. They're playing that part. We all have a part. We all have a spiritual part. We're not quite the same. There's Nityasiddha, Nityabhata. They're eternal associates. You can come like that, as Prabhupada says here. You can become eternally liberated. But there are some who are eternally liberated. They're the Lord's eternal associates. Although Prabhupada is using the example here, it's described elsewhere that Jai and Vijay are always Jai and Vijay. They may expand, but they never fall down. They never fall down into this universe. They simply play a part. In fact, it's fascinating to know, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes, that they never left Vaikuntha. They expanded. Ordinary jiva can't do that. They expanded into this world as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. They were still there in Vaikuntha as Jai and Vijay. They were no longer there. They were still there at the same time, if you want to put time frame in. Of course, we can look at eternity in another way. There is no time frame. But still, the acharyas explained that they were still there. You understand? They simply expanded for the Lord's pleasure. When the Lord expands, his eternal associates may also expand. Jiva, or the Tatastha jivas, are a little different. They generally can't do it. Krishna can do anything he likes, but that's not their normal capacity. But his eternal associates, they have this particular ability of the Supreme, this quality of expanding for the Lord's pleasure. We try to do it and try to imitate in this world, but we don't have that capacity. So Jai and Vijay, they come into this world for the Lord's pleasure, they expand for the Lord's pleasure, but they continue in their role. And we'll hear about the other things later on. But by following in that footsteps, I can't say exactly following the footsteps of Jai and Vijay in this universe, but following the footsteps of the pure devotees of the Lord, one can become ever confirmed again, ever liberated, as Prabhupada says here. One can come to that platform. By following the ever liberated, one can become ever liberated, isn't it? We're supposed to. I mean, the nectar of instruction, of course, is, you could say on another level, but in the nectar of instruction, it's advised that one should go to Vrindavan Dham, and there, one, especially Radhakund, and there one should associate with these pure devotees and serve them and follow in their footsteps. So there are cheap tickets leaving today from Glasgow Airport to Vrindavan. We can all go to Radhakund and sit on the banks of Radhakund and follow the pure devotees there and go back to Godhead, right? Become ever liberated. Very easy. Isn't that right? There we go. Confirmed. Prana has said, yes, it is correct. But there's more to it, isn't there? Sometimes people quote that verse, but that is number, I don't know what number it is, but it's one of the last verses of the Nectar of Instruction. It's not easy to enter into Radhakund. It's not just getting a rickshaw or even going in a car, even walking if you're really serious. No. Again, as you said, it's a state of consciousness. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, if you've got any material desire whatsoever, you cannot enter Radhakund. Any desire whatsoever for enjoying this world, no matter what it is, you cannot enter Radhakund. Physically, you may, like they go to the moon. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it looks like you're not there. You don't have the consciousness. You don't have the right body, when we talk subtly speaking, to enter there. So it's a question of our consciousness. But by following this particular pastime is, of course, very extensive. It's one of the most extensive in the whole Bhagavatam. Probably next to Krishna Lila is the most extensive, isn't it? I think so. And it's essential. If you go to Mayapur, how many of you have been to Sridham Mayapur in India? Let me put my goggles on. Quite a few of you. Nimai or Nitai? Nimai. You been?
Yes.
Oh, good. So almost most of you have been there. And there's one place in Mayapur known as, it's impossible for you that you could guess, but you may not get it. I don't expect you to get it. But there's one place related to this in Mayapur. Perhaps that's a clue. What's it called? Nishingapali. And what's that? What's in, you can probably work that one out. What is Nishingapali?
This is where Lord Nrsimha washes his hands after taking the.
Okay, that's one famous pastime. Not everyone agrees with that, but that's the general pastime we hear. The Lord Nrsimhadev went there after killing Hiranyakashipu and washed his hands, and there's a nice lake there which was formed from that water, that nice tasty water of the blood dripping off of Lord Nrsimhadev's hands was fingernails, etc. And washed there. And there's a temple there of Lord Nrsimhadev, old temple. And there's a very interesting song, poem, or whatever you want to call it, of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for those who don't know, was the great grand spiritual master of our Srila Prabhupada. I think that's what it is. Anyway, he was the founder, basically speaking, in many ways, of the modern day Krishna consciousness movement. That includes ISKCON, of course. But from him, our present day preaching mission has expanded. So he has written very nicely how is by the mercy of Lord Nrsimhadev allows us to enter into Radha Krishna, or enter into the spiritual world. Without Lord Nrsimhadev, what is that mercy of Lord Nrsimhadev? How does that work? It seems a little bit a different lila. And some Vaishnavas say, why you do this? Why you sing Namaste Narsingha? This is Rasa Bas. We're worshipping Radha Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. What has Lord Nrsimhadev got to do with all of this? Well, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself would talk about Lord Nrsimhadev extensively with the general devotees, not necessarily with his most intimate associates, but with the neophyte devotees, with the general devotees, with the public. Lord Nrsimhadev, Dhruva Maharaj, these pastimes were very common in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, say, Sadhu Sangha, when they were discussed with the general devotees. Why? Even Prabhupada. How often Prabhupada did, and he gave us Krishna book, but generally he didn't discuss much about Krishna Lila. When we say Krishna Lila, we mean, the kind of Lila that people like to hear in terms of Vrindavan or something. Tell us some stories about Krishna. What did Prabhupada did, but not very much. Mostly philosophy. Huh? So why? Why is Lord Nrsimhadev so significant? Yes. Yeah, you can go deeper and deeper on that one. He removes all the anarthas. Now, if you read in the 5th canto Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Narshingan Mastaja Stejase Avira Vibhava Vajunaka Vajudangsha Karmashan Vandaya Vandaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Ong Shraha Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuyashta Ong Shram. Very important verse. It sounds like one of those verses South Indian Brahmins chant while they're doing all their dits and flying around on the altar. But the meaning of the verse is very deep and very important, isn't it? What is the Prahlad Maharaj is praying? What is it? What's he praying for?
He prays that Lord Nrsimhadev removes his demon-like desires.
That Lord Nrsimhadev
Removes his demon-like desires.
Yes. Yeah, with his sharp nails and claw-like nails and thunderbolt. That he removes all these material desires and arthas. Clear them away. How many of you have read the Krishna book? Most of you. So in the Krishna book, there are many pastimes. They're not all Rasa Leela. Sometimes people, they have this sentiment. Let me just hear the Rasa Leela. I just want to know about the gopis. Tell me about the gopis. I'm not even worried about the gopas. They're okay, but that's not my cup of tea. I want to hear about the gopis. Well, there's people like this. Huh? But there are many stories. Honestly, stories makes it sound like fictional or something. There are many pastimes there where Krishna is killing, it seems like, killing demons who appear to come to Vrindavan. They come to at least on the surface, on the edge of Vraj. And Krishna kills them, huh? All this represents what? Yeah, the killing of various anarthas. Now, anarthas are very deep. They're basically our various concepts, our various attitudes, our mentalities, huh? The various coverings, deep, subtle coverings. Not just you eating meat and drinking wine, whatever French devotees here. Have you given up wine? Is it possible for a French man to give up wine? Still working on it, yeah. Cheese? You don't give up cheese. French cheese. The Prime Minister, President of France, Charles de Gaulle. It is impossible to run a country with 2,000 cheeses. What he means to say is that there's so many varieties of cheese, and everyone's got their own opinion in France, you know. How can you manage a country, you know, like this? Isn't it? Everyone's got a different opinion on everything. It's very hard. That material would. Anyway, so we're back here. Where are we now? We're with Lord Nrsimhadev, we're in Krishna book, removal of anarthas. You cannot possibly. Why? Because Krishna doesn't reveal it. As long as you've got anarthas, anartha means unwanted desires or material desires of any kind, false identity with his body. You know, we can easily tell when we get a little upset when we don't get what we think we want. You know, it means we're attached. It means we're in Maya. Completely in Maya. But Krishna knows all this. So these anarthas have to be removed. So here in these pastimes attentively can help. It helps. It's not necessarily all pervasive. If we're fully, totally surrendered when we hear it, yes, that could be so. But at least it's work in progress. As you rightfully said, work in progress, slowly being able to give up wine. It's like, for a Scotsman, what is it difficult to give up for a Scotsman? Prabhupada, Param Prabhu? For a Scotsman, what's difficult to give up? Huh? What was that? Iron brew? Is that what you said? I don't even know what it is. Some kind of liquor? Soft drink, is it? Okay. I thought they liked their whiskey up here. I don't know. Is it? Well, everywhere you go, there's certain things which we, you know, you're born and you're so attached to it, you know. And so you hear it, the heart flutters, and you know, you've got to pull back, you know. Look at these attachments. Because we're not attached to Krishna. So the removal of these things is not on our own power. We may try. We do have to try. Not that you just leave it up to Krishna. Krishna didn't say, just depend on me, Arjuna. Don't worry about anything else. He said, fight and depend on me, right? Both have to be there. Ultimately, it's Krishna's mercy. The removal of anarthas is by the mercy of Lord Nrsimhadev. Very important, because there's no question of understanding Radha and Krishna as long as anarthas are covering our consciousness. How can we understand the sun when we're under the clouds? The clouds of anartha have to be removed. So Lord Nrsimhadev plays a central role, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur emphasizes this as necessary to worship Lord Nrsimhadev preliminary, so that we can eventually, by his grace, worship Radha and Krishna. So even from that point of view, it's such an important pastime. And so many lessons are to be learned in this process of devotional service. And this is just one of them, the behavior of Jai and Vijay, orchestrated by the Lord, by the way, and the behavior of the four Kumaras. They're both, interesting. Well, we'll come to that when we come to it, but let's move on. What are we doing for time? Time to finish. Okay, so we finished the purport, so we'll leave the rest for tomorrow, if we're still here. And yeah, it does. It goes right into the point where they apparently enter into the material universe and take their parts in the next drama. Any questions, comments? Yes. What is your name again? Probably you told me 6 times probably. You told me in Loughborough, you told me in Lincoln, you told me yesterday, and you're telling me again this morning. Yes. Amrita Tattva. Amrita Tattva. Oh, ecstatic. How can you less identify with your material role and more identify with your spiritual role? Well, of course, this is in one sense, this is synonymous with our whole movement. This is what we are it's not the ultimate goal, you could say, but it's certainly a essential product or essential factor of our teachings, of our objectives, and it should be of our realizations. So how can we do that? Okay, let's ask you. Who would like to answer this question of Amrita Tattva? Prabhu. Come on, wake up. Yes. Go, Bob. By serving Lord Chaitanya?
By serving Lord Chaitanya's
mission. One of the main verses in Lord Chaitanya's mission, he spoke it himself at Rath Yatra, by the way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Na ham vipo na chanarapati na pivaisho na shuru no ham vani nishkirpati no vanastaryatirva. You know this verse? Kintu purjanda kila paramananda punam ritabde gopi bharta padakamalam dasa 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 nadasa. What does that mean? Ishan? There, you got the last one. That was very good. Last line. That was the hard one. That's the hardest one. It sounds the easiest, but that's the hardest one, actually. To become a servant of a servant. Of the maidservants of the Lord, of the spiritual world. That's not easy. But what's the whole verse? Yes, you've been very active on so far. Yes.
I am not a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. I'm not a sannyasi, Madhukasti, Hastra, or Brahmachari. I am really the servant of the servant.
Yeah. Well, this is an admittance, isn't it? This is an admittance. I'm not a Brahmin. I'm not a Grihasta. I'm not a sannyasi. I'm not a brahmachari. What are you? Remind yourself. We have to remind ourselves. Most devotees chant this verse every day. If you do daily worship, you're supposed to chant it every day, right? Some of you may be doing daily worship before you start your puja. And there's other verses too, to remind us who we are. I'm not a Brahmin. Oh, we're supposed to. You can't go on there unless you're a Brahmin. But in reality, you're not a Brahmin. You're a servant of the servant. You're assisting the pure devotees in this service. So to see yourself as an assistant of the devotees. The key Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj is to always said to come to this platform is to always remind ourselves that our business is to serve the devotees, to serve the Guru, to serve the devotees. This is our business. Krishna will then help you to realize your actual identity by serving the devotees. That will gradually dissolve this falsity of identity of thinking, I should be served. I am the center. I am the center. False identity means we're seeing ourselves in the center. No matter who we are, we can be an insect. It's still seeing itself in the center of its life. False ego, of course, it's not accumulating anything. You could say it's just playing out varieties of its own doing. But the false ego is still in play in that sense because it's identifying with that body. It has no other identity. Human form of life is very confusing and complicated. You can go from one thing to the next, different identities. You can have an identity crisis. They do say sometimes, but it's not quite the same. That animals have psychological issues and this and that. At least they say that. Maybe they do. But in the human life, identity crisis is a big issue. I mean, if we're aware of it or not, and some people really struggle with it even on the material plane. It's a real struggle. Who am I? Materially, we're not talking spiritually here. Am I a man? Am I a woman? Am I this? I mean, let you change your job 100 times. Just had a letter from one disciple that they were studying engineering and said, actually, I did realize I don't like engineering at all. And now I'm going to go into, child care, children with special issues, completely different subject, totally different. People don't know even materially what their identity is. It's so complicated, age. Things are so complicated. It's fact. It's very difficult sometimes. Previously, it was a little easier. People will be helped to understand their material identity, what is best for them. And that will be a better station in order to practice Krishna or spiritual life as well. But when we're so confused, I was thinking that yesterday. Prabhupada said, one time, I don't know where it's written, I've never seen it, but we heard it a lot. Prabhupada said, first become conscious, then become Krishna conscious. And it refers to, like in the Bhagavad Gita, we see how Krishna emphasizes, although you're not a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, he emphasizes you play that role, isn't it? In the beginning, not at the end, but in the beginning, he emphasizes it. You have to act according to your nature. You can't suppress your nature. You've got to act, but we don't know what our nature is, materially speaking even. We're mostly confused. You can be 1 minute, you can think, I'm really a Shudra. I just want to go and empty the garbage and chop the wood. Next minute, you're going to be running around telling everyone, do what I say, blah, blah, blah. Next minute, I'm just going to study Prabhupada's books. That's the best thing to do. Maybe I should do business and help the movement. Yeah, that would be a good idea. You go from one thing to the other in the same, it's like the weather. Can change 4 times. Some of you any of you been to New Zealand? I know you guys, you were made in New Zealand, I think, weren't you? They're made in New Zealand. They tell me they're born in France, but made in New Zealand. You did pretty good for someone made in New Zealand, I must say. Anyway, in New Zealand, they have a saying, in Auckland, 6 seasons in 1 day. 1 day. And it's a fact. I've been there sometimes. You go, you know what to do. It's really warm in the morning. You're going out, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of the morning, the wind changes. In comes a gale force wind, a blizzard, hailstones. Then next thing is like thunder and lightning. And it's like, you don't know what's happening next. Sometimes like that, Wellington, Auckland, these places, it's like the mind is like that sometimes. Huh? So how to not be carried away by all that? Because we have to remind ourselves. Okay, that was one good thing. Anyone else like to add to that one? I think some of you are asleep, isn't it? Anyone asleep? Put your hands up if you're asleep. Sleepwalking. Somebody's speaking from the corner. I don't know who it is. Here he is. He's coming in from outside. Just coming in from where are you coming in from? Where are you from? Huh? You're from the kitchen, are you? I thought you were. Something told me you might be coming from the kitchen. I don't know what it was. I thought maybe you were coming from sunbathing or something. Oh, you're begging. You're going out begging. If anyone has a mic to give this beggar that's just entered in the room, please throw something in his cloth here. Yes, someone was saying something. Was that you, Javat? The question was Amrita Tattva's question. How can we, what can help us to change our identity, which we've been hearing about a lot today, false identity of identifying with the part we play in this world, materially, to understand our real identity. So we've heard a few things. So for you've already, hopefully you heard a few things. Don't say the same thing again. Say something different. Yes. Nandaki, you're off with the babes? Off to school? They're getting a little anxious for maybe have to feed the tanks, huh? Fuel the tank. Put some fuel in the tank. Yes. Who was that? Who was saying something there? Was it? Thank you very much. Very good, huh? What does Rupa Goswami say in the Nectar of Instruction? Come on. Yes, Adusha. Perfect. And the English. Oh, no idea what it means. You must have, but he wouldn't have said it. And his disease will be destroyed at the root. Kinvadaradununinama, by careful and a regular, it means constant really, but always chanting carefully the holy name of Krishna, all these diseases will be removed. The sun will become clear. It's not a question of some analytical analysis or experimentation. It's a clarification. There are many verses like this. Think of another one. How the clarification of the heart or the realization of Krishna and consequently your own relationship with Krishna comes about not by some mechanical method. Yes, Javat, you had your hand up first. Okay, this is one of a series of verses in the second chapter of the first canto, which you have to read them all in the sense to get the full picture, but that's like one of the primary ones, isn't it? What does that mean? My goodness, you boys have got it down to the T. Excellent. So that verse and consequent verses around that verse, or before, a little bit before, but mostly after, furthers that point of clarification. Anything else? Yes, another verse maybe. Oh, okay. We got some scholars up here, I must say. Goodness gracious. You're being, put to shame, you Welshmen. What's up? What are your hands are going up for? Come on. Translation. Is it complaint or addition? Yes. Yes.
The sense is, blood of the Joseph can understand Krishna where they're engaged, the tongue is engaged in service, and smile, the personality, and all Krishna's attributes become manifest.
Yeah, by Krishna's grace, he reveals everything. Another one. Your hands were flying high there. Come on. Why were they high fly? Beautiful. Give me some water quick.
I don't know how much nectar desire many, many lives. And the name enters the whole of the ears.
Conquers. Conquers.
No, no. When the name enters the whole of the ears, they desire many millions of years. And when that name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind and therefore all the senses of the body.
Nice. What a beautiful verse. Deep meditations. Another verse? First verse. Oh, yeah. That could be used too. Eh? Quite nice. Simple one. You know that one. Chatur Darpanamaj. So many verses to remind us. Huh? But in some of these verses, we see directly chanting Hare Krishna, but carefully chanting. You may not be on the platform of Rupa Goswami, of tasting such nectar while chanting. But, the directions there, Kinvadarada Nudinam, to be careful when you chant, to hear the sound of the name. Why? Because Krishna cleanses it. Nityasiddha Krishna Prem Sadhu Kavanai. What's the next line? Shuddha Chiti. Yeah. Shravanadi Shuddha Chiti. Kare Uday. What does that mean? What does it mean? Yes? Yeah, it's not something you get from an external source. It's already there. It just has to be. It's like when the sun rises. Sometimes it's here. Krishna Surah Sam Mahaya Andakara and so on. When you're in that presence of Krishna through hearing and chanting, the heart, Krishna is right from the first verse, Kata Krishna. Krishna cleanses the heart, and as the heart becomes cleansed, then naturally one realizes. Krishna gives that realization. I give the understanding by which they can come to me. He gives that realization within our hearts. He cleanses the dirt, and automatically things become clear. When the fog or the clouds are removed, things become clear. It becomes clear who you are. It becomes clear your relationship with Krishna. Right now we're practicing. So you associate with. A key factor in this is association. The most important factor of all, really, is association, isn't it? If you associate with people in Maya, are you likely to become Krishna conscious? What do you think? Nothing's impossible, but it's not so easy, is it? Even if you associate with devotees who are really, let's say, more interested in material things, that is not very favorable. Association is so tantamount, so important. When you associate with devotees who are more Krishna conscious, that way we can become more Krishna conscious. When we associate with devotees who are less identifying with this material body and mind and so on, but are identifying more and more in their relationship with Krishna as Krishna's eternal servant, or servant as a servant, is a little easier to develop that consciousness. By practicing that consciousness, acting in that mood under their guidance or inspiration, then it will gradually grow. Krishna will give that realization within our hearts. You remove the dirt which is covering our consciousness. So association is very essential. Very essential. The blessings of the Vaishnavas, the good wishes of the Vaishnavas, the way that you get Krishna's blessings is not direct, it's through the mercy of the Vaishnavas. So we have to beg for their mercy. Everything depends on mercy. We make our effort, but we depend on Krishna. Well, it's getting late and you've got a long way to drive to it. They're going to Inverness today. They said you told them to go to Inverness. Is that right? You told them to go to Inverness. Yeah. Oh, they wanted to go today. They heard that the weather's really good up there. Huh? They should get there by 7? St. Andrews. What's wrong with East Kilbride? They go back to God in East Kilbride. It's funny. He's kill bride. How do you get that name? Kill bride. They want them to come back. Okay. It's not that bad. He's exaggerating. Come on. They're not that bad. What about Motherwell? Mother's well there. Even if the bride's been killed on the east side, at least the mother's well over there. What's wrong with Motherwell? Hamilton. Can't beat it. Huh? What about Paisley? Paisley, that's good. We used to do well in Paisley. You're from Paisley? Some of you were from Paisley. It was a whole bunch. I met one from Paisley yesterday. Forgotten his name. I hadn't seen him in 40 years. Who? Yesterday was there. One of them. Willie, yeah. Paisley, still good? Depends what you do. In Paisley? Oh, University of what? That doesn't describe what goes on there. And there's so many close. Anyway, whatever you decide, it's all good. Wherever you go is wonderful. St. Andrews. The university is closed right now. St. Andrews, big university. Huh? But there's holidays now. They won't be there, will they? I don't know. I've never been there, to be honest, but I know it's a university town. Anyway, you decide. Krishna always has his plans. I remember back, Keshamaj told us last year or two, he gave a little talk on Sankirtan. He said they went on Sankirtan. They were going, to different places. Someone recommended they went to this little town called Paynton in Devon. And I know it well because my parents lived there. So they went there. And what are we doing here when they got there? There was nobody around. Just old, retired people, They couldn't. They thought, okay, we can't stay here. It's just dead. He came all the way, dead. Just about to leave, one young man came running up to them. Running. He said, "Oh, I can't believe it. I've been looking for you for years. I've been waiting to meet the Hare Krishna devotees." He was so excited. He bought all the books they had. And eventually he came and joined the temple. You never know. You might think you don't know what Krishna's plans are. Yeah. Even in Les Mahego, you never know. Okay, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go Premanande. Tomorrow we'll be on